Have you ever wondered what it's like to go to med school? We speak to some students to get their perspective and learn what it takes to succeed. Plus, how is technology used between the Burrell, Florida campus and the New Mexico campus? It's all designed to help you succeed. Plus, our financial health segment is on the way. Learn how to protect yourself from fraud. It's information you don't want to miss. All that and much more. So let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the DO Pulse, a podcast about osteopathic medicine, community, and education. I'm your host, Sidney Alvarez. Now this podcast is brought to you by Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine and sponsored by GCU. Learn how GCU is the credit union that can help you meet your financial needs. For more information, visit gcu.com. Have you ever wondered what it's like to attend med school? What does it take? Well, here to tell us more, I'm joined by two very amazing students, Lucy Palmer and Alessandro Vasquez. Thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you, Sid, for having us.
Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we want the insight. People always say, I'm thinking of going to med school, but thinking about it and doing it are two totally different things, right? Tell me what it was like for you all. How did you all prepare to go to med school? Let's start with you, Lucy.
So I started out my preparation by doing a master's in medical science at the University of South Florida. I did a one-year program to just get used to doing upper level medical classes again because it's been a while since I've been out of school, Sid. And then I took the MCAT and then I applied to med school. First
things first is the MCAT, right? As you mentioned.
Yes.
What about you, Alessandro?
Similarly, I went to undergraduate here at New Mexico State University, and afterwards I also took the MCAT. It's the exam you take to get into medical school. I took it once, and then I took it again to get a good score, and so that's mostly how I prepared, was studying for that test, yeah.
So let's talk about, surprises when it comes to med school. Did you guys have a big surprise when you started med school? Is there anything that just popped out?
So for me, med school is going to be challenging, but it's one thing of knowing it and it's another thing to experience it. So I think the level of difficulty, it was a little bit of a surprise. You had to learn how to manage your schedule, manage your time, and just how to study all over again.
Tell me about you, Alessandro. What about you? Any huge surprises?
For me, actually, it was more social surprise. I was surprised by the community here at Burrell. In undergraduate, it can seem very competitive in a way, where you're trying to compete against everyone, but once you get here into medical school, it's a very uniting experience, I believe. I think we all bond between the workload and the different schedules that we have to balance in a sense. So for me, it was just a very welcoming community.
Because everybody, not just your faculty, your staff, but your peers, everybody wants to see you succeed.
Yes.
Do you guys feel that?
Yes. I feel like your faculty really are dedicated to your success. They go out of their way to make sure that you have what it takes to understand the material when you go and approach them and ask them if you're having difficulties.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
And for me, I'll bounce off of that. I think our staff and our faculty, especially our educational specialists, they help advise us not only with our classes, but also just how to manage a workload like medical school, and it's their job to help you succeed.
Well, you brought that up. How do you manage the workload? There's obviously a level of stress. How do you manage this? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. For me, I'm very grateful for my family that I have here. I have a wonderful wife that keeps me grounded when I tend to get overwhelmed and whatnot from there, and also my parents, my younger brother, they're here as well, and it's a lot of encouragement. So for me, when I tend to get overwhelmed or just very busy with school, it's a lot of family support.
Lucy?
Support system, definitely. I'm here with my husband, and if it wasn't for him, I don't know how we'd do it, because we have 2 kids at home, and he's basically making sure the house runs well, and between him and a whole lot of prayer, that's honestly how I make it through med school.
Now, I've had the opportunity to speak with you both individually, but can you share what the goal is here, what kind of doctors you guys want to be, what you want to pursue? We'll start with you, Alessandro.
For sure. I'm from Las Cruces, New Mexico. I lived here for 17 years, and my family and I, we've personally experienced a physician shortage, not only here in Las Cruces, but here in New Mexico in general. So for me, the end goal is I want to be a primary care physician, specifically family medicine, because not only do I really enjoy working with people of all ages, but it's a specialty that I feel this community really needs.
Thank you, Lucy.
For me, I want to do emergency medicine and critical care. I've always been attracted to the need for it, the change of pace. You never know what's going to come through those doors,
Right.
and being able to help somebody at their greatest point of need.
Oh gosh, we need both of that from each of you. You know, let's talk about interactions with patients. I know that you guys have just started med school. Have you guys had that interaction with patients yet?
We've had very limited interactions, but we've encountered with standardized patients in our clinics here at Burrell. And these standardized patients, they are truly wonderful to work with. They come in with a script, and
These are the folks that act like patients. They come in with an ailment, and you have to treat them.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's very beneficial because you get that feel of like, oh, okay, this is actually what it's like to be in a clinic, to perform an exam, and it's very beneficial. Yeah.
I think, Lucy, you mentioned to me that you guys are doing OMM now and some suturing. So
Yes.
tell me about that.
We did some suture clinics. We did some vaccine clinics to learn how it is to give vaccinations. We had to give vaccinations to each other. So we had the real life experience, hands-on experience. Got to experience what it's like when you don't do it right.
When somebody has a heavy hand, is that what you're saying?
Yes, very much so, yeah.
But it was good practice for us, because then when we're going out into the community and we're volunteering, we have, did it and experienced it, and they're not our first times.
Awesome. You know, they gave me the cue that we're running short on time. I'd like each of you to look at your camera over here and just share your advice to potential folks that may be thinking of going to med school. What kind of advice would you have for them? Lucy, I'll start with you. Go ahead and look at that camera and tell them what kind of advice you would share.
So if you're preparing to go to med school, I would say definitely consider what it is that you're getting yourself involved in. Make sure that you know your why. Your why is going to take you through some hard times, through the good times. It's going to remind you what you're passionate about and why you're doing it. So know your why, and then just make sure you prepare.
Alessandro?
For me, to prepare for med school is to have and know your support system. Medical school is very busy. It is very challenging. But if you have a support system, whether it be family, friends, or just the community that you're in, it's important to have that and support and encourage you as you go through school.
Alessandro, Lucy, thank you both so much for the insightful information. I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that are definitely going to enjoy this. Thank you so much, okay?
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after the break. Plus, how is technology used between the Burrell, Florida campus and the New Mexico campus? It's all designed to help you succeed. Plus, our financial health segment is on the way. Learn how to protect yourself from fraud. It's information you don't want to miss.
Here's to the unseen late nights, learning curves, and your perseverance. The behind the scenes is where the magic happens. It's where you shape your process and where you don't let anything hold you back. GECU is there to support you through it all with the products and services that you trust, so you can focus on making your own path. Become a member online now at GECU.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Here at Burrell, we advocate the use of technology. And to help us navigate this, I am joined by Jeff Harris. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Now, enlighten us a little bit. Tell us, give us your title, number one.
I'm the Associate Vice President for Administration, so I'm responsible for things like facilities and the technology here at the college.
You wear a lot of different hats, right?
I do wear a few hats.
So we're talking about the use of technology, and one of the things I want to bring up is the use of cameras in a lecture room such as this. We're in Melbourne, Florida right now, in one of our lecture halls. Tell us about the use of cameras.
Because we're teaching classes both from Las Cruces and Melbourne, it's very important that we have the ability to see our students and our instructors in both locations. So in both locations we have auto tracking cameras that will follow the instructor, and if a student asks a question, you'll notice there are microphones at all of the positions here. The camera will actually focus on the student, so the instructor, whether they're local or whether they're at the opposite campus, can see that student and interact with them.
The beauty of this interview is that as we're speaking, folks that are watching can see the actual video playing of the technology in use. Let's talk a little bit about the monitors, more specifically the confidence monitors. What does that mean?
So we have monitors that the instructors can see. So when they're standing at the podium, they will actually see their content, whether that's PowerPoint or an X-ray or whatever it is. They'll also see the remote campus. So if they were teaching here from Melbourne, they'll see their students in Las Cruces. And they'll see themselves so they know where they are, so that they, if they move around the room, the tracking cameras will follow them around the room so they're not tied to standing behind the podium.
Really for a more fluid experience with their presentation and their interaction with the students.
Our goal is to make this as natural as possible, whether the student is in Las Cruces or in Melbourne.
So you brought that up, 2 locations, and really the beauty of having a lecture in 2 different locations at the same time. Tell me about this.
Well, so the goal is to spread our faculty expertise. So we have faculty at both campuses that teach both to the local campus and to the remote campus. So this is not just from Las Cruces to Melbourne, it's also from Melbourne back to Las Cruces. And they're teaching one student body that exists in 2 locations.
Well, behind us, in front of us, all over us, we have these microphones, and you can see them in the video. There's a close-up of the microphone in use. So these microphone systems are pretty fantastic because it allows the students, whether say the student is in Las Cruces and speaking to a faculty member in Florida, to ask a question.
Correct. So one of the things that's really important is that we want to make sure that the entire interaction is recorded. So we don't want to just have the instructor answering a question and that being recorded. We want to know what was the question and what was the follow-on question, and was there a follow-on question from the other campus, for example. So the microphone system allows us to do that, and each time that a mic is pressed, whether it's in Las Cruces or Melbourne, the camera system will focus on that student or that group of students, so that at the other location it's almost like they're in the same room.
You know, and it's about building community, building relationships with your instructor and fellow students. So with the whole system of the cameras and the audio, students in Melbourne can get to know students in Las Cruces and vice versa.
Right. What we didn't want was a picture of a big room with a bunch of indistinct heads in it. We really wanted it to focus in on those students so they can build those exact relationships that you're talking about.
Beautiful, that's wonderful. You know, let's talk about AI. Everybody's talking about how the advancement of AI, how it's being used in all sorts of different industries. Education is not alone. How do we use AI in technology here?
Well, so a good example is this room. The camera tracking system is actually AI based. So in the old days, an instructor might have to wear a badge or a pendant and the camera would follow that. Now the camera system is smart enough to recognize faces, as that instructor wanders around the room and is interacting with students locally.
Yes.
It focuses on them and keeps
the camera on them.
Keeps the camera on them, keeps everybody engaged.
Gotta smile and look your best all the time.
That's right.
So let's talk about the configuration of our actual classrooms. As I mentioned, we're in our Florida campus right now, in the Melbourne campus. Tell us about the configuration of the classroom.
So you'll see behind us that we have a number of monitors, everything's sort of in 2s. So typically what would be on the monitor is the instructor's content on one side, and we'd have the remote campus on the other. Normally that's a wide shot of the campus. As soon as a student or the instructor presses a microphone, goes to a close-up shot. And we have them all over the room. So the goal is to make sure that there's no bad seat in the house. So we have cameras, or we have monitors in the front, in the middle, and in the back, so that it doesn't matter where in the room you're sitting, you have a good view of the content that's being presented and the instructor who's presenting it, the faculty member.
Correct me if I'm wrong, it's also stadium style seating, correct?
This is also stadium style seating, so that the furniture is lower in the front and higher in the back. And again, that's so that we have good lines of sight from a student who might sit in the back. I happen to be a back row dweller. and they have a good view of the instructor in the front of the room.
Let's talk a little bit, you mentioned this earlier, let's talk a little bit about recording the sessions. Tell me what this is about.
So since the very beginning of Burrell College, we've recorded almost every lecture that's been given. And the goal of that is to, there are several reasons. One is it gives the student an opportunity not only to be in the classroom when content is being delivered, but also to have that material for review. So they'd be able to go back perhaps before an exam or before a board exam a couple of years from now and review content from a particular session. So all of the sessions are recorded. We use Zoom to connect the two campuses together, and this gives an opportunity both for, we have occasionally a faculty member who may be at a remote site and they are presenting over Zoom. All of that stuff is recorded so that students have access to it later.
Perfect. You know, we're always talking about security and reliability. Give us some insight into that.
So actually the recording is part of that. So the biggest concern is what happens if the internet goes down, or what happens if there's a power outage. So we have a number of scenarios to make sure that there's lots of different power options in our building. We have battery backup, we have generator backup, which is designed specifically to keep the network running. We have multiple network connections. So we're served by 2 different networking companies, if you will, in this building, so that if one fails, it automatically seamlessly fails over to the other. And the goal is to keep that downtime to absolutely as minimum as possible. Worst case is we're able to continue to record a lecture, and then a student would be able to review it after the class.
Awesome. Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Plus, our financial health segment is on the way. Learn how to protect yourself from fraud. It's information you don't want to miss.
Your time is now, right here at the Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine. We have a 99% graduate residency placement and more than 850 physician preceptors, plus a simulation department, gross anatomy, and research labs. We offer Mission Medicine, a community-based learning experience with 2 campus locations, New Mexico and Florida. Go to burrell.edu and apply today. And remember, your time is now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our financial health segment. You know, our today's topic is fraud awareness. And to help us, we have the wonderful, amazing folks from GCU, Miss Amanda Williams, and you are the Vice President for Payment and Remote Services. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Such an important conversation. I mean, just off screen, we were chatting about this. What are the common channels that you see scammers use to target folks?
Sure. So the most common ways to be exposed to fraud is either through social media, phone calls, text message, email. So just keep in mind that there are a multitude of ways that fraud can occur. So everybody needs to be mindful that the fraudsters are constantly changing their tactics. So just be aware that it could come in through any channel in which we do business.
Oh my gosh, it seems like it's everywhere, right? You just rattled off all those places. So what is a phone scam and how can we avoid them?
Great question. So phone scam is one of the most common scams that we see today. And what that is where the fraudster is calling or sending a text message from what seems to be a legitimate number, when in reality it's the fraudster using a fake number that's getting to you, trying an attempt to either get your credentials, encourage you to send money because either you received a credit, multitudes of ways that they're trying to just really get your personal information. So you always have to be very, very careful. Never call that number back, but if you know the company in which the phone call is coming from, call them directly and ensure that they were actually trying to make contact with you before you do any other business with them.
You know, we jest, but it's very serious. We talk about getting that text message and don't click the link, or when somebody calls you, be aware.
Always be aware. And if it feels too good to be true, your gut is trying to tell you something.
Absolutely. What is a common scam that targets college students, or in this case, people that are still in education, getting their degrees?
Yeah, and I think one thing I want to emphasize with you is college students are a prime target. The reason being is because I have 2 kids in college. They need money, right? They're full-time students, and at this point, a college student they see as easy access because they're going to do anything that they can to sometimes what they consider make an easy dollar, right? But what it really means is they're trying to offer them internships. They're trying to offer them well-paid jobs that either come with selling points of flexible hours, work from home, something that supports a college student's lifestyle. But at the end of the day, really what they're trying to do is get your name, get your date of birth, social security number. Hey, what's your account information? Because that's how we're going to direct deposit your check that you're working for me for, right? But in reality, you just gave them all the information that they need to do an account takeover, which they start to target either your online banking, all of your accounts, and before you know it, your accounts are drained of all the funds that you've been saving up.
You know, we were chatting earlier before we started taping, and I was under the assumption that, people that are elderly, fall victim to scams. But as you just said, college students, that's not the case.
No. And a reminder for everybody, fraud does not discriminate.
Right.
As long as you're breathing, you are a prime target for fraud. It doesn't matter how much money you have in your account. It doesn't matter where you live. You're a prime victim for fraud.
We were talking about, you mentioned social media earlier. Most people have some sort of social media presence.
Yes.
What should we do to protect ourselves while using social media?
And I'm a social media junkie, so I always have to remind what I tell others for myself is you have to know who you're doing business with. Look at reviews. Look to make sure that they are valid. Again, I know I keep saying research, but research is key to protecting yourself. Know who you're doing business with, because social media is a prime target for selling of merchandise, right?
Absolutely.
And 9 times out of 10, what's happening in today's world is when we are going on social media to purchase items that are at low cost or a great price, 9 times out of 10, that merchandise is not showing up at your front door. And guess what? You've already paid for it, and you're not going to get a refund.
Right.
So that's why we always say, do your due diligence, research, know who you're doing business with, look at reviews. All of that is important. If you want it that bad, you'll do the research.
Well, and it's like you said earlier, if it's too good to be true, it's probably
fraud.
Exactly. And speaking of fraud, there are different types of fraud. There's a term called phishing, and they apply it to text, to emails. What is phishing? What can we share with people?
Right, so phishing is one of the prime targets of fraud today. And basically what's happening is the fraudster is sending a text message or an email that seems to be from a legitimate resource. At the end of the day, it is the fraudster driving what you would believe is a valid email. And so it's accompanied with a link, and what they're wanting you to do is click on the link, which would, in the background, allow them to have remote access to either your desktop or the device that you're using. And as you're logging into online and mobile banking innocently, they're picking up your username, your password. If you're looking into files on your desktop or phone, they're picking up other important information.
They're learning anything about you.
Debit card, credit card, anything that's personal, right? And so then what happens is that when you're least expecting it, they're either transferring funds between your accounts, moving money in different channels, or simply just trying to take over your account so that at the end of the day, you have no funds left.
I know that I've personally, when I've gone through these trainings, they've also said that some of the ways when you're looking at these emails, for example, maybe it's grammar or a misspelled word, that could be helpful too.
Yes, looking for anything that looks different, font changes, logo. But what we do recommend is, even though it may check out to be a valid email, the best recourse is to always, if you are doing business with that company, call them directly. Make sure that they did send the email to you.
So what is, if I was to fall victim, of identity theft, what should I do?
First and foremost, file a police report. Follow up with the Federal Trade Commission. Those are 2 great organizations that will help you through every step of identity theft. They will provide you with documents that you can utilize with your financial institution, or anytime maybe that if the identity theft does hit you in a few years, you always have that recourse that you can supply them that will validate that you have been a victim of identity theft. We also say file reports with the credit bureaus. Once you notify one, they do the work for you, and they notify all 3. That alert stays on your credit report for 7 years, and you get notified anytime someone tries to get credit under your name, tries to do anything that's utilizing your credit report. The other thing is always stay aware of your account activity, your credit card activity, just so that you can catch it faster. The more you're in tune with what's happening, especially when you are a victim of identity theft, it's important for you to make sure that you're following up with statements and just ensuring that there's no odd behavior within your transaction history.
Wow, Thank you so much. Really, it's an eye-opener. Can you look at that camera and tell people how they can get more information?
Sure. You can always find more information regarding fraud on gecu.com. We have a fraud resource center there that you can utilize, and it has great tips and information for you to be aware.
Amanda, thank you so much for your help. I know that our viewers are definitely going to appreciate this, so really thank you for your time.
Thank you for talking about this topic. It's really important.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be right back. Well, that's our show. For questions or information about our program, you can send us an email. Our email is communications@burrell.edu. We'd love to hear from you. You can also stay connected with us on social media. Our handle is @Burrell College. I'm your host, Sidney Alvarez. Thanks for watching, and until next time.